It has been a month, but we are back. My name is Thomas Kurt. I'm a high school teacher and coffee enthusiast. And the last couple of weeks, we've been reading a bunch of short stories in my sophomore English class that honestly have been more inspiring for me, I think, than most of my students, even though I've read all of them at least a couple times in the past. This week, we read a story called Jon, which is by George Saunders, one of my favorite authors. And it's a pretty eerily accurate satire of consumerism and influencers that it was written in 2003 before cell phones. And now the reality that Saunders kind of poked fun at in this story is very much a real thing that ironically I'm somewhat participating in. But it reminded me about my original goal with all this social media stuff, which stemmed from my college honor scholar thesis. I had a great opportunity my senior year of college to do an interdisciplinary project that I could get grant money from the school and I could think about cool ways to connect my different majors together. And unsurprisingly, I chose to center mine around coffee. And as a music and English major, my tie-in with all these different disciplines was really about how we taste, how we develop our taste, both physically, like when we eat and drink things, but also our cultural and aesthetic tastes as well. Things like music, the clothes we wear, people we vote for, the places we want to hang out at. And then finally, the ways that we communicate that taste with other people around us. It was an incredible experience and probably the second biggest moment in my education. The first being when I taught for the first time, realizing the world didn't revolve around me. And this time realizing I could actually apply the stuff I was learning and I could just reach out to the people who I looked up to as teachers, as researchers, as professionals, as businesses, and collaborate with them in cool ways. It only took like 16 years of formal schooling to realize that, and this is kind of a continuation of that in some ways. But anyways, back to the story. Jon takes place in the Midwest in this remote facility. A bunch of teenagers are there. They all have chips in their necks. And what we gather pretty quickly is that they are working for a company who evaluates products and ad effectiveness through like real life simulated people market research. And we follow along Jon, who is one of those TasteMakers and TrendSetters who's evaluating ads. But that all changes when his wife gets pregnant and decides she wants to leave the facility. It's hilarious. It's absurd. It's sad. It's beautiful. It's all the things I love in a Saunders short story. And even though my sophomores, I think it really stretched them a little bit, by the time we had gone over it for a few days, they really got into it. The first thing we did on day one, I was inspired by one of my colleagues who's taught the story before, was they all got out their phones and had a minute just to scroll through Instagram or their social media of choice and see just how much advertising they consumed in that 60 seconds. And even for the kids who didn't quite finish the homework, started to click what the story was about. 4 years ago, when I presented my coffee thesis, I was kind of thinking about these things, how algorithms and advertisers and wealth and culture influence the kind of stuff we like. But I was much more concerned at the time with just getting free coffee equipment and talking to coffee professionals I enjoyed. One of those people was Dr. Stefan Schwartz. He is a coffee researcher over in Mannheim, Germany, who runs the Coffee Consulate. It was fantastic. He was super generous with his time. We spent over an hour talking about the way we taste and how we communicate it and different rare coffees he has access to. Really just grateful for how much he was excited about something I was working on and how much time he gave me and research. Definitely had me hopping down a whole lot of rabbit holes the next few months. I already knew a little bit about how complicated our taste was. Everything affects it. When we just consume food or drinks like coffee, chemically things are going on, physically things are going on, culturally things are going on, but everything is affecting the way we're experiencing that moment. Not just what are the molecules in the food and what we like and don't like, but a whole bunch of physical and external variables that are going on. As complicated as it is to taste something, it is way more complicated to try and communicate that later, especially if you're in a culture like the US where we're really good at saying, this is good, this is bad, I like it, I don't like it. And what Dr. Schwartz clarified was just giving something a value judgment is pretty lazy. It's an agreement. It's not really a description. And to really describe what we're tasting and why we like something, we have to be really good at associating. And very quickly, I began to see how important it was that we be able to name what we're tasting, but also to compare it to other things. That's where the magic comes in, being able to compare an experience with others. In Jon, in the story, there are a ton of different, very human experiences: falling in love, being attracted to someone, not knowing what to do, feeling sad, that when he tries to explain them, all he can do is pull up different commercials he's seen to kind of summarize the moment that he's experiencing, because he doesn't have access to those experiences or touch points to compare those realities. And as somebody who teaches metaphors, who teaches precise language, I realize just how often I'm trying to do the same thing in my classroom, on my Instagram page, when I'm drinking coffee, when I'm sharing food with others, when I'm explaining the clothes I wear, all of these things. It's really essential to forming and recreating and learning about who I am and my identity. I think I've leaned so far into the teaching side of things on this channel and the things I'm writing. And then on Instagram, really leaned into the coffee side. But after reading the short story, I think I'm really pulled to return to my thesis from college, the idea about taste. It feels like a great way to bridge all these things together in a new way. And ironically, it's an association. The only way I can do that is because of the different experiences I've had. So I think moving forward, as a teacher, as a coffee nerd, as a creative, I want to focus on having more experiences so that I can make more associations, and practicing using more precise language to describe those experiences, to compare them with each other, to find new ways to dig into why I enjoy what I enjoy, where it comes from, and be a little bit more intentional about that, especially as someone who is just consuming algorithmic content all of the time. My life is so dictated in that area. So more than 4 years ago, more than 20 years ago when this story was written, I think it's time to be intentional about my taste, both physically and aesthetically, so that I can live a more authentic life, and hopefully one that's more exciting and beautiful and interesting. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll have another essay up in a week or so, kind of chilling out on the deadlines for a little bit, but follow me on Substack or check me out on Instagram if you enjoy this and want more frequent updates. Thanks.